Dear citizens of Israel, at the beginning of my statement, I would like to send my condolences to the families of those who were murdered in the atrocious terrorist attack near the town of Eli. May God avenge their death. We have killed almost 400 terrorists in Judea and Samaria since October 7th. The battle is still going on, and it is collecting a heavy toll. Since October 7th, we are engaged in two campaigns: a military campaign and a diplomatic campaign. The military campaign, its purpose is to eradicate Hamas, bring back all the hostages, and make sure that Gaza no longer poses a threat on Israel. The diplomatic campaign, its purpose is to give the military campaign the time and resources necessary to achieve these goals until we achieve absolute victory. For 5 months now, I've been operating daily with my colleagues, with world leaders and global media in order to give freedom of action to the IDF and security forces. This freedom of action is quite unprecedented since the establishment of the State of Israel. As the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, I must protect our vital existential interests, whatever the pressures on us may be. And these pressures are increasing. This is what my predecessors have always done in such critical junctions. In 1948, Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. Levi Eshkol launched the Six-Day War, and Menachem Begin instructed to bomb the Iraqi bomb. And this is what I have done for years in my ongoing struggle against the Iranian nuclear campaign and doubling the settlement in Judea and Samaria as we were facing pressures to completely suffocate. And today I need to withstand international pressure to finish the war before we achieve all of its goals, even though, like I've said, these pressures are constantly increasing and our efforts are bearing fruit in the most important international arena, which is the U.S. A research by Harvard-Harris Institute was published this week in the U.S., and it determines that 82% of Americans support Israel. That means more than 4 out of 5 citizens in the U.S. support us and not Hamas. And this broad support gives us additional power to continue in this military campaign until we achieve absolute victory. We are acting forcefully against all our enemies in all arenas. In the north, we are targeting Hezbollah, targeting senior leaders of Hezbollah and Iran, and we're preventing them from carrying out their murderous intentions. In the south, our soldiers are continuing to kill off the Hamas battalions in Khan Yunis, and they're preparing for further fighting. And let it be clear, there will be further fighting. To win over Hamas means that we need to eradicate all the remaining Hamas battalions, both in the north and in Rafah, and we will do so by evacuating civilian population from combat zones, and we will take care of its humanitarian needs, and we will adhere to international law, because this is how we operate. Simultaneously, we are in the midst of endless efforts to bring back our hostages. Citizens of Israel, this is a sacred target, and we're working 24/7 to achieve that. I demand to know in advance the names of all the hostages will be included in the nearby outline, and it's too early to know whether we can achieve an additional deal to bring more hostages. We are making every effort to succeed at this, but it should be clear to you that we will not succumb to the ridiculous demands of Hamas. We will not do so, because if we will succumb, we will no longer be here. But so far, thanks to the combination of military pressure and fierce negotiations, we managed to bring back 112 hostages alive, and we are determined to bring them all back home. With or without a deal, we will fight until we achieve absolute victory. Citizens of Israel, we are achieving the goals of the war, first of all, thanks to the heroism of our troops, and also thanks to the unity among us. Recently, this unity manifested itself in an unprecedented vote in the Knesset. 99 Knesset members followed my request to vote against an international dictate to establish Palestinian state. The last time there was such overwhelming agreement was over 20 years ago with the peace treaty with Jordan. When we stand together, we're very strong. And since the beginning of the war, we have displayed wonderful unity in the battlefield and also an exceptional unity among us Israeli citizens. And it astonishes everyone. Everybody who comes here, they say to me, whether if we're in a taxi or on the street or whenever we meet different groups of people, they say what we encounter here is an amazing unity, and they see our troops. They see we meet a sublime unity here. This is what they say. People from overseas who come to visit Israel, and we must continue with this unity in order to achieve absolute victory. And in this spirit, I'm convinced that we can overcome the issue of sharing the burden and conscription. First of all, we need to ease the burden of reserve duty and to try and make it easier for the conscripts and reservists. I do not agree with the plan to multiply or even quadruple the number of reservists. The IDF can continue to recruit reservists in special situations as much as it needs. And I'm also preparing a law that will remunerate and compensate those who served in the military and give them significant discount on land in the north and in the south in the Negev. Let me give an example. A soldier who finished his military service will receive a 90% discount on the land, and somebody who served as a combat soldier will receive a 95% discount on that territory. He will get it almost for free, and they have every right to get this. They fought for their homeland, they defended it, and now they're going to get a home in their homeland. And as for the conscription law, I definitely cherish the study of Torah by ultra-Orthodox Jews, and I know how much they do in various urgency organizations who do such an important and critical work. And yet we must say we cannot ignore the growing sensation among Israelis that there is a certain gap in how the burden of military service is being distributed. And I can tell you that even the ultra-Orthodox sector now understands this, and they want to change the situation, and we will set a goal for drafting the ultra-Orthodox to the IDF and for doing civil service. We can achieve such an agreement without rifting the people, the Israeli people, and without inciting against any group, and I'm certain that such an agreement will achieve a majority in the Knesset. But one thing is clear to me: we cannot obtain absolute agreement. Do you know where you can find absolute agreement? In North Korea. In a democracy, what we have is an agreement of the majority. If what you want is absolute agreement, you will not get any kind of agreement, because it's enough if somebody in the coalition has an interest to lead to elections, then will get dragged into elections. If somebody has extreme demands, either way, then we will also get dragged into elections. And what is the meaning of general elections today? It means that we'll have to stop the war, and that means defeat for Israel. General elections means paralyzing this country for at least 6 months, or even 8 months, 6 months in which the state, the government, and the Knesset will be completely paralyzed and rifted. And in such a situation, the government's hands will be tied. They won't be able to reach any decision, not about the hostages, not about Rafah, not about Hezbollah, not about anything. And not only will the government be completely paralyzed and rifted, our soldiers, our troops will also be rifted, because these are not municipal elections in which a combat soldiers from Hebron is in the same APC as a troop from Ramat HaSharon. We just saw it. No, they didn't argue. But when we're talking about general elections, not only will there be arguments, we will see emotions, camps, defiant activity. This will be lethal friendly fire inside our national APC. This mustn't happen to us during wartime and when we're so close to victory. I once again tell you, citizens of Israel, general elections in the middle of war mean defeat for Israel, and that is exactly what Sinwar is dreaming of. It's exactly what Hezbollah is dreaming of. This is exactly what Iran is dreaming of. They're just waiting for it to happen, and I know what I'm talking about. And let me tell you, something else. All members of the cabinet know what I'm talking about. Therefore, citizens of Israel, this is a time for unity. This is a time for agreements among us. And together with all of you, I say to leaders from all over the world, both to our enemies and to our friends, you should not be mistaken in our intentions. We plan to fight until we achieve absolute victory, and we will always remember that this is achieved thanks to our troops, the heroes of this people. I salute them for boldly walking and storming ahead with utmost heroism. And of course, I embrace the families of those who were killed in action as they experienced this terrible, terrible pain. At the beginning of the week, we visited the family of First Sergeant Neria Beleta in Shavei Shomron. He's from the Givati Recon unit, and he fell as a hero in action. He is the son of Rav Rachamim and Batsheva, who made Aliyah from Ethiopia to Samaria. His grandfather was murdered in Sudan on his way to Zion, and his grandson was a brave soldier who was killed for Zion. We shed a tear together with the rabbi, the father Rachamim, and the mother Batsheva, as they spoke with great emotion about their hero son. And for Neria and for all those who have been killed, and for ensuring our future, we will continue to fight until we reach absolute victory. Together we will fight, and God willing, together we will win. Thank you. Now we can move on to questions. Channel 12 News, Itamar Myanmar. Mr. Prime Minister, do you agree with the words of Minister of Defense Galat that it's important to bring a conscription law that will be acceptable to all members of the coalition, including Gantz, because last time he didn't coordinate such a measure with the political implications with you. You fired him and then you retracted. I think that now I've realized that the worst thing that can happen to us is general elections during the war. That means we will lose the war. And I'm confident that the Minister of Defense is aware of the significance of general elections and how risky that is for the state of Israel, and that it will lead to us not achieving the goals of the war. Channel 14, Tamir Morag. Was any kind of ultimatum issued to Hamas saying that if until a certain date no agreement is reached, then the IDF will start maneuvering in Rafah? And has the IDF completed its preparations for a maneuver in Rafah? We do not indicate when we will continue with our operation. Has this operation been prepared? Yes, the IDF presented it to us and to myself and to the war cabinet, and of course it also includes a plan for evacuating the population.